Pay up or you won't see your grandchildren again. Those were the exact words my son-in-law spat at me across my own kitchen table, his eyes cold, his voice steady like he'd been rehearsing it. Imagine hearing that from the man your daughter married, the man you welcomed into your family, trusted, helped, and treated like your own son. I sat there in stunned silence, my hands trembling as I tried to process what he was saying. My daughter stood behind him, her eyes down, not even meeting mine. That moment broke something inside me. I had spent my entire life providing for my family, sacrificing everything to make sure they were taken care of. And now, the same people I loved more than anything were threatening to cut me off from my grandkids unless I handed over money I didn't even owe them. Tell me, what would you have done if your own child's husband looked you in the eyes and blackmailed you with your own family? Because what I did next, well, it's something they'll never forget. It all started a few months earlier, before that awful confrontation. My name's Robert, and I'm 65 years old. I retired 2 years ago after working nearly 4 decades as a construction supervisor. I was never rich, but I was careful. I saved what I could, paid off my mortgage, and even managed to build a little nest egg. My wife, Diane, passed away 6 years ago, and after that, my daughter Emily and her family became my world. She and her husband, Jason, have 2 kids, Liam and Sophie, my pride and joy. I'd watch them a couple of times a week, take them to the park, spoil them with ice cream, and tell them the same corny jokes their mom used to roll her eyes at. I thought I had a pretty good relationship with Jason too. When they first got married, I helped them with a down payment on their first house. It wasn't a gift. I told them clearly it was a loan, no pressure to pay it back soon, but a loan nonetheless. They both agreed and even signed a simple note about it. At the time, it was about $40,000. After that, I never pushed them for repayment. I knew they had bills, a growing family, and life wasn't cheap. But recently, things started to change. Jason lost his job, and Emily started working extra hours to keep them afloat. I offered to help watch the kids more often, trying to ease their burden. But every time I came over, I started to notice Jason's attitude shifting. He became distant, snappy even. Little things turned into arguments about how I parked my car in their driveway, about how I gave the kids too much sugar, about how I interfered in their parenting. It was like he was looking for reasons to resent me. Emily would usually smooth things over, saying he was stressed, but there was something darker simmering beneath it all. Then, one Friday evening, Jason called me over for a serious talk. I thought maybe he wanted advice about finding a job or needed help with bills, but the moment I stepped into their house, I could tell something was off. Emily was sitting on the couch, quiet, her face pale. Jason had this smug look, like a man who'd already decided how things were going to go. We sat at the kitchen table, and he didn't waste time. "We've been talking," he began, his tone too calm, "and we think it's only fair that you help us out financially again. You've got your house, your pension, your savings were struggling, and it's not right that you're sitting comfortable while your own daughter's family is drowning." I blinked at him, stunned. "Jason," I said, "I've already helped you plenty. Remember the down payment? That was supposed to be repaid, but I never pushed. I'm not sitting on a fortune. I've just worked hard to have a little security for retirement." His expression hardened. "We're not asking for charity," he said, leaning forward. "We're saying you asterisk it to us. Emily's your daughter. If you cared, you'd make sure your grandchildren didn't have to go without." That's when Emily whispered, "Dad, please, just listen." My heart sank. I looked at her, and I could see she was torn. Maybe even scared. "How much are you asking for?" I said finally. Jason smirked. 50,000. "That should keep us afloat while I get back on my feet." I almost laughed from disbelief. 50,000. "Jason, that's insane. I don't have that kind of money just lying around." He stood up, towering over me, his tone turning cold. "Then maybe you shouldn't expect to see the kids anymore until you figure something out." Those words cut deeper than anything I'd ever heard. I turned to Emily, expecting her to say something to stop him, but she just looked away. That's when I realized this wasn't just Jason's idea. was complicit. I left that house shaking, trying to make sense of what had just happened. For 3 days, I barely slept. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, that smug look on Jason's face. Emily's silence, the threat of losing my grandkids. My first instinct was to give in, just to see the kids again, but the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. They weren't asking for help. They were extorting me. The next morning, I decided to check on something. I went through my old paperwork. The loan note I'd made them sign when I gave them the down payment. It was still there, clear as day with both of their signatures. Suddenly, a plan started forming in my mind. Jason thought he could manipulate me, but he didn't know who he was dealing with. I spent my entire career managing construction projects, dealing with tough negotiations, and reading people. I wasn't about to let this man bully me into submission. Before I tell you what I did next, I want you to think about something. If your own child's spouse threatened to cut you off from your grandkids unless you paid them tens of thousands of dollars, what would you do? Would you give in just to keep the peace? Or would you stand up for yourself, even if it meant risking your relationship with your family? Think about that and let me know in the comments, because this next part, this is where things got real. On the third day after Jason's threat, I decided to visit them again, but this time I didn't go empty-handed. I brought a small recorder in my jacket pocket and the original loan document in a folder. When I arrived, Jason opened the door with that same smug grin. "So, have you come to your senses?" he asked. I nodded slightly. "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I've been thinking about what you said. But before I hand over anything, we should make sure we're on the same page about what this money is for." He smirked. "It's for family. For your daughter and grandkids." I pressed a little further. "So just to be clear, if I don't pay, you're saying I can't see the kids anymore?" He didn't hesitate. "That's right. Until you decide to do the right thing." I gave him a small nod, pretending to agree, while the recorder captured every word. Then I pulled out the folder. "Before we do anything else," I said, "I want to talk about this." I slid the loan agreement across the table. Jason's face dropped the moment he saw it. Emily looked like she wanted to sink through the floor. "You remember this, right? The $40,000 loan I gave you for the house. I never asked for a dime back. But now, considering the threats, I think it's time we settled that debt properly." Jason's voice rose. "You wouldn't dare." I cut him off. "Actually, I would. You've just admitted, on record, to trying to blackmail me for money. That's a crime. And I have this document proving you already owe me a significant amount." For a moment, the room was dead silent. Emily started crying softly. Jason's face turned red with fury, but he didn't say another word. I stood up, collected my papers, and headed for the door. "I'll give you both a few days to think about your next move," I said. "But if you ever threaten me again or try to keep me from my grandchildren, I'll take this recording to the police and my lawyer. And trust me, I won't hold back." I walked out feeling equal parts heartbroken and relieved. I knew there would be fallout, but I didn't expect what came next. A week later, I got a call from Emily. She was crying, apologizing over and over. She told me Jason had packed his things and left after they had a huge fight. Apparently, when she found out I'd recorded him, she realized how serious it was. She said she never truly wanted to go along with his plan, but he pressured her, saying I owed them and that he was just getting what's fair. She admitted that she was scared of losing him and thought agreeing might keep the peace. Hearing her voice break like that hurt, but I could tell she meant it. Over the next few weeks, I helped Emily get back on her feet. I offered to help her with the kids whenever she needed, and I even gave her some money, not as blackmail, but as support for my daughter, this time on my terms. She eventually filed for separation from Jason. I later learned that he'd tried pulling similar stunts with other relatives, even borrowing money from his own parents and refusing to pay it back. It turned out the man I once saw as part of my family was nothing more than a manipulative user. Months later, I was sitting on the porch, watching Liam and Sophie chase each other around the yard, laughing, carefree. Emily brought out some lemonade, sat beside me, and said quietly, "Dad, I'm so sorry for everything. You didn't deserve any of it. I smiled at her and said, what matters is we learned something from it. Family isn't about who shares your blood. It's about who respects you enough not to cross certain lines. She nodded, tears in her eyes. We sat there for a while, just enjoying the peace that had finally returned. Looking back now, I still think about that awful day when Jason threatened me. I think about how close I came to giving in, to letting him use my love for my grandkids against me. But I'm glad I stood my ground. Sometimes standing up for yourself means risking the things you love, but it's the only way to protect them in the long run. So, what do you think? Was I right to handle it the way I did, or should I have done something different? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've ever had to deal with a family member who tried to take advantage of you, I want to hear your story too. Like this video if you were on my side. Subscribe for more stories like this. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you all in the next story.